Happy Thursday, everyone. Thursday. We are live, Cap Chat live. So we have some people listening, which is fantastic. We are joined by Simon Collins, the National League Commissioner for the USYS, which is United States Youth Soccer, if I'm saying that correctly. And as always, Tyler Tomlinson over there from Quincy, Illinois, rocking stuff over there.
You're listening to Cap Chat, the #1 soccer recruitment podcast in the United States.
This is Cap Chat.
There, so we want to dive kind of right into this, and if you guys are listening, feel free to post something in the chat. You can chime in. The idea is this is part of a series of we're trying to learn. There's a lot of different leagues out there, and so we're trying to learn what different leagues do, and different leagues offer different things. And so, Simon, I'm going to simplify, I think, and then I'm going to let you dive into the more intelligent things. In general, there are two main governing bodies. There's USYS, which works with the local states. Like, I'm in Missouri, Tyler's in Illinois, so USYS works with Missouri Youth Soccer Association. And then you have US Club, and US Club has the ECNL. And those are really, I know there's that other USSSCA, 1818 or whatever, ARP, but those are the two main governing bodies within United States soccer. Is that a fair kind of oversimplification?
It's a fair oversimplification for sure. Yeah. USYS, we have around 2 million market share. US clubs are about 500,000. Say soccer, about 300,000-ish. AYSOs around 300,000, and I believe USSSA are probably in between US club and say soccer, I would imagine, somewhere like that. Just to give you a quick overview. And that, by the way, they're probably not right, but it'll give you a ballpark.
Yeah, that's better numbers than I could have came up with. They seem pretty accurate. So, well, let's kind of start with, I guess, it's up to you. Do you want to start from the top down? You want to start from the bottom up and say, okay, what is like in the Missouri, what do the local leagues look like, and how you guys go in, and what are the different leagues?
Yeah, no, I think the best way to tackle this is roles and responsibilities of US Youth Soccer. We have 54 member state associations, and USYS, as USYS National, for this conversation, if you will, it offers 4 main programs: talent identification with ODP, the National League, which has got the various regional leagues around the country, and then we have grassroots, USYS University, and we kind of offer these things. So a state cup within a state can connect to regionals, to nationals, for example, which USYS operates and manages the what's called NCS series, National Championship Series. That's for the state cup. Then, to offer a little bit more confusion, we have the President's Cup, which is another national championship that we do also. The National League itself, that provides a league pathway into these national competitions. So you've got a cups and a leagues, and the best way to explain that is, for those of you that know the European Champions League, 4 people from the Premier League qualify into the Champions League next year. That's the format for National League.
Okay. And we just saw Arsenal lose yesterday, and so that's okay. Okay. So ODP is the Olympic Development Program.
Correct.
Now, I think that's something that, and I don't know, that's ODP State Cup, President's Cup is that your oldest pathway or oldest thing that's been around the longest, that most people know what ODP, President's Cup, and State Cup is, I'm assuming?
Yeah, the longest standing competition there is the Maguire Cup, which is our national championship series. So state cup, qualified to regionals, then on to nationals. It's been around, and I'm 70 plus years. I probably got that wrong by a few.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes way back. It used to be just a 19U competition, but obviously now the nationals has expanded to 14s up to 19s, and looking at what the option looks like for 13s to maybe join in and around some of these competitions as well. Olympic development program, obviously back in the day, it was a pathway for the talented kids to get scouted by the national teams. That's changed somewhat now with the DA, when the DA came around, and then MLS Next. ECNL does a great job of putting some kids onto the national teams as well once the DA folded for both boys and girls. But ODP is open to everybody. So if Tom was on here now that runs point on that particular program, we have MLS Next, ECNL, National League, state representation. I mean, if ever you get a chance to go and watch some of them games, them kids, they do really well. They've just played an event down in Orlando this past weekend, and I'll be surprised if they even gave up a goal, to be honest.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so ODP is you go state ODP, or do you start smaller and like city ODP, or what's that pathway up?
Each state has its own little nuance on how it'll do it. It'll have its market training centres within a state association, but it's run predominantly by the state technical leads. Tom Condone provides them with some guidance on rules, etc., and then we connect the states to intrastate and then into interregionals, and then they go off on international trips as well.
Oh, nice. And the benefit of ODP is that it is not club based. So no matter what club you're part of, or no matter what acronym league you're part of, like you said, anyone can hop in and play ODP.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it. It's great when you get the kids coming together.
Okay. Tyler, did you play ODP as a youngin?
No, I wasn't good enough. No.
Oh, are you being serious?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awkward.
No, I don't know. I never tried out.
Oh, okay. Good story.
Yeah, I'm in Southern Illinois, and our ODP opportunities weren't exactly Chicago-based down here in the southern part.
So some of them kids on the ODP programs, they're pretty special. I mean, anybody that's looking for some talented individuals, you wouldn't fall short if you went to some of these events and saw some of these kids play. Some really good players.
And how is, and I may be opening a can of worms, how are you finding with ODP in clubs? Are they working together, or are they getting very protective of, like, this is my player, I don't want him to go in ODP? Are you bumping into that more and more?
Yeah. I mean, it comes down. There's a couple of factors to consider. The periodization of a player, because they're doing far too much at this minute in time. I mean, it's a 12-month season. There's just no off period for these kids, and I've got two boys myself, and they both do a sport. They don't play soccer, by the way, but they both do sport. But there comes a point when they need to stop for a prolonged period, if nothing else, just to let the bodies heal a little bit. So what we find, not all clubs, but some clubs, they're a bit reluctant to send their players forward or support the players' needs that venture on these ODP programs, because they don't want them getting injured, for want of better words.
Yeah. And what age does ODP start?
Oh, good question. I mean, Tom, I think it's 12s, 13s, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Tyler, you were 16, tried out for the 12-year-old team, and still didn't make it.
I still didn't make it.
Still didn't make it. Okay. Tyler, okay.
Some state associations will do abbreviations to get them in early so they can start to build a little base. So it's state-led at like I said, roles, responsibilities when in the initial outset. It's a state-led program to begin with.
And then from there, so State Cup is, I think, is still a big deal. So you have State Cup, and how do you qualify for how does it look like for a team to qualify for State Cup?
comes down to application registration.
Okay.
I mean, you have to be registered with a US Youth Soccer State Association. The players have to be registered for insurance purposes. That we changed some of the rules a couple of years back, where it used to be that you had to play four games in a qualifying league, but we dropped that rule and gave some flexibility to the states so that they could open the door for outside competitions as long as the players were registered. And obviously, you've got to tick the insurance box and the safeguarding of the players with the adults that's around them. But we opened the door to get as much competition in as possible. And it seems to have worked.
And then, so you guys have a weekend. So I guess you apply, but then there's a state cup. Sometimes there's playing games, and then there's state cup, and then there's the following weekend if you win state cup, right? And like, what happens if you win state cup in your age?
So just to backtrack a little, state cups run differently in different states. Some are group stage, some are knockout, some are straight knockout. But in essence, it culminates in a final two, with the winner gaining a opportunity to go on to regionals. That's the gist. But again, looking at roles, responsibilities of how it works. If you speak on a national level, standardizing the competition sounds great and would be brilliant. But then you factor in high schools, weather, wherever you are. So we've got to have that little bit of wiggle room to get some of these things in.
And then state cup does play into, so you go regional, and then does it done after regional, or then you can go on and win a national championship?
On to national championship. Yep.
That's the national championship.
So
okay.
Then the winner from each region goes on to nationals. That's where they're currently the one winner from each regional, so that makes up the 4 per age group, is then joined by 12 teams that come out of the National League. So that's when we get the best of the best coming together.
Interesting. I want to touch on National League, but I also want to say that, and I believe, and maybe I'm making this one up, your guys' state cup regional national championship is the original national championship. Like
Correct.
Back when we were young, when I was younger, like you win a national championship, it was through USYS.
Yeah. I spoke to a guy not far away from me that's doing some really, really special work with heart screening for kids, which I'm not plug his name, but they're doing some great work working with Florida Youth Soccer. And he says, oh man, I won state cup. We got to regional. He says, but we didn't get there. We couldn't get to. I mean, it goes back a long way, and a lot of people have got some fond memories of being in and around it.
And then President's Cup, and then I want to get back to National League, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around, but it kind of, in my head, it kind of makes sense, but I know maybe not for everyone else. But President's Cup, do you say it's a different conversation than State Cup? How do you describe that? I don't know if it's a step down or what's that?
I'll give you, for example, Florida Youth Soccer runs State Cup as their top competition, President's Cup as the mid-level, and then Commissioner's Cup as their third level of competition. State Cup goes to regionals, to nationals. President's Cup has its own, so just another level down, and Commissioner's Cup just stays in local. So then when you talk about President's Cup, it's run the same way as the national championship. It's just the next level down.
It's Europa.
It's Europa. Yeah, great one. Yeah.
There you go. See, this is okay. That makes sense in my head. As long as many years I've been doing this, now when I just said that out loud, I'm like, oh, okay. It's it's Champions League and Europa.
How many President's Cup winners are there? Champions.
1 per year. Oh, as in states? How many come out of the state associations?
Does it expand beyond the state for a national champion in the President's Cup?
No, so it runs on the same format as the national championship. So they produce 1 state cup winner. So they'll produce 1 President's Cup winner that goes to a regionals that produces 1 and so on. So it's the same. It's a very similar format.
So you can be a national President's Cup champion.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's only one of them.
Correct. Which gets confusing because when you say I'm a national champion, somebody could say, in what?
Well, that seems, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you can.
But you could be an NPL national champion, an ECNL, an MLS, a USYS, NCS, President's Cup.
Yep.
This is back to your original point of if you had to win a national championship back in the day, it was USYS or nothing.
Yeah.
That's when it really meant something.
Yeah.
It should still be the same. But that's me being a bit biased and simplistic.
I tend to agree with you on that. It's there's going to be too long. Everyone gets a blue ribbon. It's yeah. Okay. So we have State Cup, President's Cup. Now, so back now to National League. And when we look at leagues, I think the easiest way for some people to grasp there are club-based leagues that your entire club has to be in. And then you have leagues that individual teams can join. Is that a fair generalization?
Yep. That seems to be the trend right now in our country.
So National League, let's dive into that. I know you've talked about the roles and what is National League and what does that look like from kind of down up, I guess, when we talk about the roles?
Well, National League offers both of what you explained.
Okay.
National League is the overarching name of two league formats: a club-based, which is classed as E64, and a team-based, which is the conferences, which where you would be Great Lakes Conference in around Illinois, Midwest if you're going down into Missouri. So they're individual team-based. So if you're not a big juggernaut club, for example, Ohio Galaxies, or I'll just throw in a name out now, and you're a smaller club, but you've got a really talented standalone age group, they get the same opportunity to get to the same end point.
So a team comes in, Monarch United comes in with a U14 girls team. They're going to play in the Great Lakes Conference.
Yep.
They win the Great Lakes Conference. What's their next step?
So they will then qualify in the similar formats that are over in Europe with the Champions League. They'll win the conference. Then the following year, they will gain access to what's, in essence, is a quarter final within their own team base, which will then get them to a semi-final, which then gets them to the national championship. And the reason there's quarterfinals is we qualify the club-based leagues and the team-based leagues into their own event, and then they qualify out of that, and it becomes individual team-based. So the very best play each other.
Is that a single game elimination?
There's actually a quirky format, which is really, really fun, by the way. So there's no ties within the quarterfinals. Everything has to finish with a win, so it goes to PKs. If you qualify out of the league in the top position, you're in a champions group, which if you then have one win, you progress. If you lose, you drop a bracket, and then you've got to work your way back up. Basically, everything is based around a performance on a field. So it's not friends of family get you access to a higher level. No, the kids earn everything that they get. And the feedback from the clubs, we've just done it this way recently. We're going through its first year, and the feedback from the clubs is amazing. It's like the last 10 minutes of a game where it's close, you've got 1,000 people around the game because that one game is going to affect multiple different brackets. It's really, really cool.
And so, so that's the conferences. And then you go league-based E64, which is one I think about 5 years old. Am I making that up?
2.
Yep, made it up. So E64 is your national is your competition, and now that's the club based.
Yeah. So E64 is still National League. It's just the term used for the club-based.
Got it. Okay.
So the club-based and the team play in their own little ecosystem as a league, and then they come together in national competitions to find the best teams that go on to nationals.
So if I have a club so my club is E64. Tyler has a couple teams that are in the conference, the Great Lakes Conference.
Yeah.
We could face each other. Our U14s could face each other because they both had the same pathway.
Correct.
Well, same. Interesting.
They will end up crossing paths if they keep winning, and eventually one of them will beat the other.
Got it.
What's the benefit of joining E64 versus staying in my conference?
It's club preference. They like to travel as a team. There's different add-ons to the club base and analysis program that goes with it because everybody's at the same place. When it all comes down to it, the kids' performance on the field will determine their future eventually. But collectively, the clubs like to travel as one unit. It saves them a bit of money because you've got one coach. The benefit to a DOC, he gets to watch every game at one facility that's going on rather than dotted all over the place. The bigger clubs tend to favour it because they can see more of their young athletes than the individual team, which you may have one going off to Chicago, the other one going off to Ohio, and it gets a bit split. But when all's said and done, this year, the performance data has shown that 55% of teams within the club-based model have progressed. So when we end up getting to the sharp end of the season, it's a wash, 50-50.
Interesting. And really, it's it's E64. I mean, you have to have a team in every age group.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 13s through and 18s and 19s is combined.
And then they go for the entire weekend. All those ages travel together.
All together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a limit on how many teams can join the E64 side of things?
Well, originally it was 64.
Yeah, that's the rumor on the street. Yeah.
Yep. We're not at 64. So we've not going above that. But we're not at 64 for a multitude of reasons. And the leagues are based in geographical areas. So we want to keep them. We don't want them to get too big. We want them to be manageable. And also, in reality, if you're going to call yourself elite, how many clubs are truly elite to be in that top 64? Now, that's questionable, and you could point finger at a multitude of things with it. And depending on where you are, and sub-clubs get upset when you've got two clubs in the same vicinity fighting for the same players. But we're not limited by geography. We just look at what's the best case scenario that's laid in front of us.
We have a question from Dana here, and so is E64, is it above ECNL?
I think competition format, yeah. I think the kids getting recruited, probably not. ECNL gets a great college coach presence, which I know is a major driver for a lot of parents. From an experiential standpoint, yeah, I would. I'm confident in our own program that we offer a great experience for the kids. It just depends on what your needs are and what you're looking for.
That's a very honest answer. I really appreciate that answer. And comparing to ECNL, that's a great honest answer. Sorry,
it's the answer, Josh.
I tend to agree with you, but yeah, no, that's a good answer. Okay.
Yeah, there's no ego on. There's no ego on here. I mean, it's not about what I think. I mean, it's. I'm all about providing a great experience for the young athletes that's playing. It works for some. It doesn't work for others. If people want to join, great. If they also don't, there's no hard feelings involved. I'm not in this to make enemies. I'm in this to
Right.
try and make a difference and try and give some kids some opportunities.
And Dana responded, I just want to make sure our players are still being seen by colleges. I may take a crack at that answer too, Dana, of players still have to do the work. I think one negative of ECNL, as Simon alluded to, does tend to draw coaches, but I think it also tends to have kids assume coaches are going to be there and they don't do the work. Tyler, we bump into that across all of our rush clubs. Like, I'm an ECNL, I'm done. So I think in any league you're in, whether it's E64, whether it's a UCCYA, whatever league you're in, I think you still got to do the work to be able to get in front of college coaches. And whether that's E64, I think E64 carries just as good a quality name as ECNL.
George, let me give you a great little story. I was in California the other year, just before one of our events, talking to the players at Legends, and I was actually with a U16 girls team. We were having a bit of a chat after they'd had a practice session, and one of the players asked how many colleges was going to be at the event, which was going to be in Disney. And I pulled the sheet, and there were about 100 colleges registered on the sheet. And I asked the question back to the player, to your point. I said, how many have you invited?
Mm-hmm.
And mum and dad looked at me as if to say, well, what do you mean, how many have we invited? I says, well, it's really important. I says, and I asked the player, what do you want to major in? She says, nursing. I says, well, what if I put 100 colleges on the sideline and you're the best player on the field, but none of them offer nursing? What next?
Yeah.
So the player has to do an enormous amount of work. They've also got to be with a club that's willing to support them in that as well, and make the connections for them. But what we've brought in is a company called ProScore, who works with the MLS now. Actually, we introduced them to that. And the idea is you shouldn't necessarily have to go to an event to get recruited. Your league games should provide enough information where somebody can see what type of a talent you are, collecting the analysis, looking at the data, presenting it to a school. Try and take away some of this necessity to travel to a showcase all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go back to the California group, and this is not a knock on ECNL at all, but the feedback we got from there is, why do we have to travel from California to New Jersey to play in an ECNL event in New Jersey against the same team to be watched by schools from California?
That's valid.
And we're the same, because we have California teams traveling to Florida. So we've changed our model. We've tried to break it up into regions so people are more localized, if you will. We'd love to put kids on planes, trains, and automobiles. It's nuts.
Good reference. So when you talk regional, let's dive into. I think the newest thing is E64 Regional League. So talk about that. How's that going, and what that looks like?
Yeah, that's the feeder into E64. And again, we've got a huge focus right now to try to localize travel as much as possible, and obviously reduce costs. The escalating costs of not just hosting the event, but to mum and dad in traveling to a league game. We have some that travel 5 hours to play a league game on a weekday, by the way. And it's like, how do we bring all that more local? Now, this is sometimes not necessarily an issue that's caused by anybody other than Club A doesn't want to play against Club B or Club C, but will travel all the way down to Club W, which is 5 hours away. But they've got great competition within the same town.
Mm-hmm.
I, being English, and as you probably picked up with the accent, and I was talking to a club in Florida yesterday. Florida's got 2 MLS clubs. The United Kingdom's got 92 professional clubs in an area that's the same space.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing things more localized? Why are we not having that local rivalry? Why are we not? Because that creates a culture, creates a buzz. So that's one of the missions for us is the regional league is how do we bring things closer together, reduce the travel, and have a platform to get into the next level as well.
Well, and I don't know the newest stat, but Tyler, you may know, 80% of kids go to college within 3 to 4 hours of home.
3 hours.
3 hours. There you go. So it's fun to travel to Florida. Don't get me wrong, but it's also what is your end goal? And yeah. So E6. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Simon.
Look at, just for example, look at other sports. Look at American football. How many showcases is there in American football where the teams come together and play?
I'm going to assume 0. Yeah. Okay.
But them kids manage to hit the biggest schools, have the biggest NAL deals, and all the rest. Now, granted, it's a bit of history and culture around it, but them kids play in the high school for 4 months of the year, and they all get seen. Data drives it.
Yeah.
Twitter drives it. Not getting on an aeroplane to play a showcase in New Jersey or Arizona or anything like that. Data drives it. So how do we bring some of that technology into the soccer field and we reduce some of the travel for mums and dads? So when they do then get on an aeroplane and travel, they're going for unbelievable competition, and that's what they're focused on, winning rather than being seen, because they've already taken care of the being seen in their local league games.
I mean, I think that's a great observation, by the way. And I'd like to say that we're headed that way. Men's college soccer in the United States right now is probably more, to use the term data-driven, I would say highlight-driven than it's ever been before. And one of the main reasons, obviously, is the influx of international players that are coming to play at every different level. And so I don't know why on the women's side, it's still, 300 coaches at one field. But that's just kind of how it is. The men's side has changed already, I think, and it has become a little bit more like American football in that sense. So we are headed that way, and I would love to see a more localized competition level for club in different areas and be able to handle it that way too, as long as the resources are available.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're going back to, I hate to say what it used to be, but local leagues that fed into state cup used to be the best competition, and now, and I'm not saying every city, now there's certain cities that the local league, the top local league, is not even any good anymore because everyone's now leaving. They're leaving their hometown, like you said, to fly to Florida to play a team that they could have just played driven down the street.
There's a massive amount of fracture, Josh.
Yeah.
And it's easy for a group of clubs to get disgruntled with where they are, find somebody that will administer them a league, and then gather a sanctioning body that will card them.
Yeah.
That's not hard, and that's part of the reason we're in the position we're in with all these different leagues that pop up all over the place. That I'm national this, I'm elite that, I'm national wherever it may be. It's been in existence. The National League's been around for 17 years. USYS has been around. It's in its 50th year anniversary right now. It's fairly stable, and it's an ever present, and it doesn't move. Does it get bad press because it's old? Yeah. Is it not hip because it's like some of the fun and funky things that's out there right now? Maybe. But it's stood true to what its beliefs are, and it's tried to keep people local. But we only keep them local if mum and dad are better educated on what's available to them so they don't have to travel as far.
Yeah, the education and that's your main focus with E64 is how many conferences is your goal with E64? Like
we've got 8 currently.
Okay.
8, but the E64 number also lends itself to the number that can qualify for quarterfinals. So we can increase that number to 64 leagues across the country if need be, and then 1 from each would get promoted in. So we do have the flexibility, and we do have the growth potential to try and do exactly that: reduce travel.
And regional league is, and currently, and I think you got this National League system of USYS is the only relegation promotion club base that you have. So if you win your E64 regional league, you now get bumped up to E64.
Yeah, you've got the opportunity to go up. Yep.
Which to me makes an unbelievable amount of sense. We can talk about MLS relegation promotes as a whole nother can of worms, but in a club system, when you're not talking a financial loss, financial gain, to be able to say, I won E64 regional league, I'm now an E64, or I'm a team and I won my conference and now I get to play, like everyone, it seems, everyone involved with the USYS has those opportunities, whether you live in Quincy, Illinois, whether you live in Canton or New York, you have the same opportunities to try to make it to a national championship.
Yep. It's not about who you know, it's about how your kids perform.
Yeah.
And there's nothing finer than actually earning something, right?
Oh, 100%.
And that's what we're trying to base this on. What the kids do on a field. A great guy once said to me, I'll take you to any white line, but when you cross it, it's on you. That's all we can do. We can put as many bells and whistles around a field. When the kids step on it, they'll determine the future. And that is how it should be.
And then, now, Dana, these are great questions. So how are teams / clubs accepted into E64? And I'll just extend that to E64 regional league as well. So how are teams and clubs accepted into E64 and E64 regional league?
So when E64 launched, it were applications. So huge application, lots of different criteria in there. How many teams, how many age groups, you have to fill a certain criteria. What were the coaching licenses of your technical leads, your DOCs? What facilities did you have? Do you provide athletic trainers? Is every single game filmed? So a whole bunch of things what go into a team's acceptance, and that's not even looking at their on-field performance in previous leagues, wherever they've played, how they've done in State Cup. Did they have multiple teams in a conference? Were they playing in another sanctioning body? We collect all that information and then we present it, compare one against the other, see where they're at. We do an interview process with the club. We ask them what the philosophy is, what the methodology on coaching is, what they do for the players. Do they offer further coach education for their staff? What's in place with regards to safeguarding players, the parental sidelines, make sure the behaviour's being managed. So you probably get the gist. There's an awful lot goes into an application and then the interview process to then see whether they're a good fit. And then once they get in, they have to maintain all these standards as well.
So you can be removed from E64.
We have removed a few.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying that process is still that extensive for acceptance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting easier now because we're going into the third year. So some of the teams have been around it for a little bit longer. The ones coming in have seen it, they understand it. The communication with some of these clubs been going on for a while, and some are building up towards getting in. They were probably not there in year 2, but year 3 they're feeding us the information so that their intention is to grow into this, which is what we want, by the way, because then the high tide rises all ships, right?
Alba asked, I'm going to make sure. So is the E64 local movement just within that path or across all US soccer paths, MLS, ECNL, etc.?
Didn't quite get that.
I'm not understanding that either.
It basically is E64 on its own path. How does it interact with other ECNL and MLS?
No, well, there are other sanctioning bodies. So that's the MLS. It sits on its own. ECNL's sanctioned by US Club, and then national leagues carded by US Youth Soccer. So they don't play against each other in each season for obvious reasons. They're on different insurance platforms.
Hopefully, Alba, that answered your questions. So I have a question. I don't know if this ever happens. Is much like a Champions League, is there ever a situation that you envision that the winner of E64 or your state cup, your national championship winner would play ECNL national championship, and E64 regional league champion would play ECNL RL champion, MPL, etc.? Is that so far fetched, or is that something that would be super cool to have?
It's a shame our CEO's not on here right now, because that's something that he and a group of us was working on last year. I believe it was termed a Champions Cup, and that it wouldn't just stop with the winner of our national championship and everybody else's, but then it would go international with some European invites and South American invites. The concept was really, really cool, by the way. And if we could pull it off, it would be great.
I assume, we're not pointing fingers, I assume there's parties not wanting to do that. Not USYS included.
Well, I think we're having more conversations across each different sanctioning body now than probably has happened in the past. We share ideas. We trying to. I mean, obviously, you've probably all heard US Soccer's got this ecosystem review that's going on, where they're pulling everybody into a room to try and make things better for the kids, and we're all on board with that. Everybody thinks it's great. What the outcome it will be, we will see, but the intentions, I think, are right. And if that's a byproduct of everybody getting together in a room, that we can create something like that, then that's great. But to directly answer your question as it sits now, Club B won't play Club C.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Tyler, any other questions?
No, this is good. I got a lot of notes.
I know. I've been typing as I go. It's, I said before we went live with Simon, like, obviously Simon's in it. I've been involved in soccer since I was 5. Like, I'm trying to grasp. So I'm still trying. I'm learning everything that's happening and all the new stuff. And
and it's, from a college coach perspective, not all college coaches coach club, right? So understanding who we're recruiting, where they're playing, who they're playing with, it's also informative in that sense. And I think sometimes, no offense, but we us college coaches get left out a little bit in the education side of things. We're not in the club system. We're not working it from the ground up. And so the more things branch out, the more difficult it is to try to stay on top of the leagues and where these kids are playing and the development that they're getting. So it was interesting in that sense too.
I think Tyler, you make an interesting point, because it's an unfortunate kind of explanation, if you will, but we may say that we're probably behind ECNL and the GA on getting colleges on the sidelines to watch our kids. Not so much ECNL at this moment in time, but where do you think the clubs come from to go into the GA for them teams to then be looked at by colleges? We've had clubs this year that's got announced into the GA, and good luck to them, by the way. And I sincerely mean that.
Yeah, other levels, yeah.
But they were last year. The same kids, the same club was playing in a national league. Why didn't the colleges think they were worth looking at then? Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden they are. Now you got to question what really is going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's some peer pressure there too. And so, I'm not coaching in a Power 5 conference, right? So my scope has to be bigger on where I can find kids, and not be lost in a sea of other coaches. If I can stand out, then I'll stand out. And I think that's an opportunity too.
Tyler, absolutely perfect. We've had a couple of coaches that's been to our events, and they've said, don't tell anybody else.
Don't tell him. Yeah, that would be me. Josh knows that.
It's a smorgasbord of talent.
Yeah.
It really is. There's some unbelievably talented kids. ING came to an E64 event last year, stacked with internationals. Absolutely stacked. Every single one of them would have been on a D1 roster. Everyone. Cedar Stars had got the Gatorade Player of the Year and a couple of others that were playing at the event. And these schools were like, don't tell anybody. Please don't tell anybody. Don't keep it our secret.
Love that.
You bring up that's an incredibly valid point about where they played before, because I do know there are coaches that only. I want to tell you, you worked with that kid from Colorado and then the California school. Like, we only go to MLS next games, or I only go to ECNL games. And you're right. Like, what were you the year before? Like, what did you do before the MLS existed? It's
that was a Division III coach that told me that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at look at the rosters nowadays of these D1 schools. They're 75% internationals.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, I don't have a soccer player in my house, so I don't have to worry about that. But if I was a parent right now, that would be a major concern. The opportunity that these kids get to play is getting even more limited. Put yourself in a shop window that's going to be more favourable. And now with the transfer portal, we did the data, and I think 3,000 players entered the portal, and 57% never kicked a soccer ball again.
Yep.
Now, which school do you want to go to? Do you want the prestige of D1 and you never see the field? Or do you think D2 and you're going to play every game? Or D3, you're going to be the star? Now the portal's here. Your schools are going to pull kids out of that particular area because they've matured a little bit more. They've played more college soccer than a high school kid has. The college coaches want a round peg in a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I get concerned about I had a talk today with the coach about the freshman to sophomore move, right? Because, and at a decent level, right? Of course, because that freshman now going to a sophomore will have to battle new freshmen, junior college, Division I, Division II, whatever transfers, and international players coming in. So each year you're staying at a certain institution, it actually might get tougher for you to compete. And your sole advantage is understanding the system and how things work and really buying into that. And so, it's also a scary change, I think, in the landscape right now.
I mean, I don't mean this to be doom and gloom, but mum and dads invest a small fortune. I mean, we hear it's 10,000 plus a year to get some of these players where they need to be. Times that by the number of years they're playing, and that's if you pick the right school, that's your first couple of years tuition paid for. Yeah. You could have played local soccer and gone to the beach straight after, if that so floats your boat. And I get it. We want all our kids to chase their dreams and do whatever. But as parents, at some point, we got to be realistic and say, hey, let's find the right fit for you, so you can actually. I mean, Tyler, a player's only as good as the last game. Well, if your last game didn't happen until 6 months ago, you're quickly forgotten.
Josh, you didn't think we'd get into a college advisory program talk, did you?
Yeah, no, I love it. No, well, it's funny you say. I was in Florida and asked one of the girls there, because we do these regional showcase teams and everyone comes together but I said, where are you looking to go? She's from Wisconsin. Oh, I want to stay within 3 hours of Wisconsin. And I'm thinking, why are you here in Florida at a showcase? Like I'm happy you're here. Like, I'm good. I'm glad you get to play. But there's no Wisconsin schools here in Florida, and it's hot. Like, if you don't want to go to hot weather, don't come down here. Like, it seemed like a lot of money to spend, and I just want to stay in Wisconsin. Why don't we do a Wisconsin showcase? I mean, it was...
That's why we go back to, how do we get the recruiting taken care of in your league games?
Yeah.
Then when you go to hit the road, you're going to win something. That means something then. I'm going as a team to win this event. I'm not going with every player's got to get X number of game minutes. We're all going with the purpose of either coming home with a trophy or progressing to the next level.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, you'll probably find more kids will get recruited in that, because it's more of an environment that they're going to be akin to when they get into college.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well, we've taken almost an hour of your time, Simon. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I know as Tyler said, I've learned a ton. And I think what you guys are doing is great. I love the relegation promotion, especially it's always a hot topic here, and you guys get to do that. So, Simon, any final words for what USYS is doing?
Well, I think we're trying to be right by the kids. Our sole focus is the players, the center of our universe, and everything else will come off if it makes sense for the player. Then it makes sense for USYS. My big thing to any parent that ventures down this with a young athlete is just be a really supportive spectator and try and relieve pressure and tension where possible.
Love it, Tyler. Do you have any?
No, appreciate the insight and all of your comments. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Well, this has been Simon Collins from USYS, the National League Commissioner with 2.6 million market share. Promotion relegation, 54 member states.